palace guard expected the human to ask for weapons, maps, and a room beside the princess. Instead, Sergeant Elias Ward looked past the marble towers, then asked the question that made the nobles laugh. "Where are the servant entrances?" Princess Veyra dismissed him. "Because no champion of Halcyon entered through kitchens." But Elias watched the servants beneath banners, and by midnight, every traitor would learn why humans noticed Door's power forgot. Veyra had been raised in the crown of Halcyon, a moon palace above a gas giant, where every corridor had a rank. Nobles used crystal stairs, ministers used bronze lifts, soldiers used armored gates, servants used narrow passages behind painted walls. Routes no royal child was taught to see. Elias arrived from Earth 3 days before her succession vote. Hired because the Queen Mother feared rumors of a coup. With gray at his temples, scars on his hands, and no patience for etiquette that confused height with safety. That was the first lesson. Palaces impress guests, but survive because unseen hands know how they breathe. At dinner, Lord Careth mocked him before the court, saying Earthborn soldiers must enjoy smelling soup before strategy. Elias ignored the insult and asked a kitchen porter how many trays went to the West Wing after sunset. The porter blinked, then answered 6. Though the West Wing was sealed, Elias asked who signed the order, then watched Lord Careth stop smiling for half a second. Veyra saw it, barely, like a candle flicker inside a storm. The princess followed Elias afterward, angry because he had embarrassed a high lord. He said, "Your lord is feeding soldiers in a closed wing." She said, "You cannot accuse him because of supper trays." Elias looked at the servant carrying laundry past them. "No, princess, but I can follow where hungry men hide." And servant doors do not lie. By dusk, Elias had mapped the palace without opening an archive. He spoke to furnace keepers, laundry runners, mechanics, gardeners, stable hands, and the old woman who polished statues. Each knew one forgotten route, one odd delivery, one hatch opened at the wrong hour, one guard reassigned. Veyra listened as a coup formed from details too small for councils: extra bandages, black uniforms in grain bins, a coded bell. Poison wine moved through the pantry. The second lesson came colder. Betrayal does not march through the front gate. It borrows a uniform and asks the servants to step aside. The Queen Mother ordered Veyra to remain in her suite until the vote. But Elias refused the royal bedroom. Too many windows, too many obvious exits, too many obvious heroes dying in obvious places. He moved her into a linen room behind the east kitchens. Veyra was furious, heir to Halcyon sleeping beside folded napkins. Elias handed her a worker cloak and said, "Tonight, your crown is a target, cloth is armor." Then Boots passed outside her real bedroom. Careful Boots, not guards, hunters. At the 9th bell, the coup began. Lights failed on royal levels, communications died, and Lord Careth announced that Princess Veyra had been taken by Earthborn agents at the same moment. Assassins entered her bedroom and found a jeweled robe arranged beneath the sheets, a decoy Elias had placed with a servant's help. The first squad wasted 4 minutes searching the wrong body. For minutes was an empire in human hands. That was when the coup started losing time. And time is the battlefield old humans understand best. Elias did not charge toward the throne room. He led Veyra downward, through steam tunnels and pantry wells, past servants who straightened when the princess looked at them as people for the first time. Every few passages, Elias left orders. Lock the sugar gate, flood the laundry lift, send empty carts to the west stairs, ring the chapel bell twice. Veyra realized he was not escaping the coup. He was moving through its bloodstream, closing valves, starving it of motion, turning servant paths into royal defense. Careth's soldiers reached the armory and found the racks sealed behind bakery carts welded to the rails. They reached the communications tower and found mechanics holding the manual locks. They reached the royal nursery where noble hostages had been planned, and found every child hidden behind flour sacks. Each failure looked like bad luck, but beneath it was one human question. Where are the servant entrances? At the 11th bell, Kareth captured the throne room and prepared to broadcast Veyra's death. He stood before the imperial seal, wearing a mourning sash too early, saying the princess had fallen to foreign treachery. Then the servant door behind the dais opened. Not the grand door, not the conqueror's door, the small one used for polishing floors. Veyra stepped through in a plain cloak, alive, stood on her cheek. Elias beside her with a kitchen knife and a palace key. The third lesson arrived before the whole moon. Rulers who ignore servants build palaces full of secret doors for their enemies, and for their rescue, Kareth drew a pulse pistol. But the old statue polisher struck his wrist with a brass bucket. Cooks slammed side doors, furnace workers blocked exits. Guards loyal to Veyra poured in through passages. Servants opened. Elias crossed the room, disabled Kareth without spectacle, and pushed him to his knees before the princess. No blood song, no heroic speech. Just the quiet end of a plan that mistook invisible people for empty space. By midnight, the coup was over, because every route the traitors needed had already betrayed them. At dawn, Princess Veyra stood in the service courtyard, where carts, aprons, tool belts, and tired faces filled the square. She named every servant who had helped, from the porter who counted trays to the mechanic who held the lift. Then she looked at Elias and said, "The Empire owed Earth a debt." Elias shook his head. "No, Princess, you owe them first." And he pointed to the people who had carried her palace without being seen. Veyra changed the architecture before she changed the law. Servant passages became emergency routes. Workers gained voices in palace security. No noble could seal a corridor without approval from those who cleaned it. And when ambassadors asked why Halcyon honored a human who fought with pantry doors and laundry carts, Queen Veyra smiled, because he taught us the oldest doctrine of survival. Pay attention to the people who keep the lights on. The human asked for the servant entrances, and by midnight, the coup failed because the palace finally belonged to everyone inside it.